Why don't we dive right in, Riles, to Mandalorian Season 3. You and I both just burned through this season within a week's time, each of us watching the final episode the day of this recording. So it's very fresh in our minds. Let's start very big, very broad. Overall, where did you come away? Did you like it, dislike it, neutral? Where are you at?
I liked it. I liked how instead of it just being like focusing on Din this season, it focused on their race as a whole and like them retaking their home planet back.
Yeah.
It's kind of badass.
Yeah.
I'm glad it seems like season 4, it's going to go back to being focused on him.
Sure.
It feels like that really wrapped up real nicely. So that's cool. Oh man, what else did I like about this season?
Well, I liked it too. Like, again, just really broad. I enjoyed it, right? I thought it was good storytelling. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it built and continued to progress from what seasons 1 and seasons 2 had laid the foundation for. So I didn't feel like any of the threads in this season were forced. I was pleasantly surprised, like you, that it wasn't just solely focused on Din and Grogu, because I don't think there would have been any way for that to have topped what they did in season 2. Season 2 is probably like the peak of what, hey, Din and Grogu as a team can be, and season 2 is spectacular,
right?
And so they did need a change from that. I think if you tried to bring the band back, so to speak, in season 3, especially given how season 2 concluded with what seemed like a parting of the ways for Din and Grogu, that just would have felt very, very forced. And so I really, really enjoyed, to your point, the broadening of the world, the bringing in of the remaining Mandalorian race, the retaking of the homeworld. I was delighted by the bigger scale. And bigger is not always better. And I don't care necessarily to play the game of, well, compare season 1 to 3 to 2. They're all chapters within the same story. So I really just enjoyed this overall.
Well, I'm glad like Grogu's kind of actually growing in like usefulness.
Yes.
Because that's been my main concern since they brought him back.
Sure.
Because it was like, why? He's a child. But
there's no utility there.
But they would have been dead without him. So it's like, okay, he's useful. Also, him driving a robot.
That was awesome.
I didn't know that's what I needed.
That was incredible.
That's hilarious.
It was so funny.
I hated how much I enjoyed it. Because when you see him...
I thought of you when I was watching it. I'm like, I think Ryan's going to like this. I think he's going to be annoyed that he likes it.
It's correct. No, because when they pulled the robot in there the first time and they got the little dude manning it, I'm like, it didn't register at all. What they were going to do.
Oh, okay.
And then they threw, I'm like, you're not throwing him in there. And then he got in there and I'm like, no. And then he's got a push button that he can like say yes or no. And I'm like,
and
stop.
That's it, by the way. That's it.
I was like, stop it. And it was well executed. I can't say it wasn't. So
that's how you know it's well executed, when it wins you over when you don't want it to.
I hated it too. I hate that I liked it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point though. Grogu, and this is a mark of good storytelling, especially in a TV show format where it's a longer form storytelling, when characters progress, right? When they continue to grow from where they were when you first encountered them to where they are now. And I say that, and now I have the thought of, in a certain way, I don't know how much Din Djarin himself has grown. There's been some, but it's been almost more incremental. It's almost he's almost been the straight man, so to speak. And you've got these characters around him that are more volatile, that develop more than he does. Not saying he hasn't developed. He has, but it's just been a much more slow burn than others.
I think where he's growing is in the sense of like with Grogu specifically, letting Grogu like actually kind of grow up a little bit and actually feeling less responsible. And hopefully by the end of the series, Grogu can just be a young Yoda. And just I mean, we already saw he's got the athleticism. So
got the hops, got the vertical. Put him in the Combine.
So I really kind of hope he gets a lightsaber at some point. It won't happen because he's not a Jedi. But like at the same time, like give the dude a saber because that would be sick. But
yeah,
I digress. Like I think that's where his character growth really is there, and yeah,
that was great. Another highlight for me, again, not that I knew I wanted this or would even necessarily enjoy it as much as I did. Bo-Katan Kryze, great character. Great character.
She makes me want to go watch Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because that's where I think she was introduced, was Clone Wars, the cartoon.
Okay.
So it was so odd because I compare this to WandaVision. It's so funny. But as I'm watching this, I'm like, am I attracted to her? And as it kept going, I'm going, oh yeah, no, I'm attracted to her. That's for sure. By the end of that show, I was like, oh yeah, no. Yeah, that's it right there. So, but like, that was the same with, with Elizabeth Olsen. Because in all the other movies, I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. And then in WandaVision, I'm like, she's actually kind of hot. And it's the same kind of thing. I'm like, am I attracted to her?
Interesting. All right, I'm starting to see your type. Okay, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
But her character was one that was not a character that I expected to have that much time with in season 3. And she had a good role in season 2, but it wasn't an outsized role of any genuine significance. It was a clear supporting role, right? But in this season, she was allowed to be really the co-star. Her character was arguably more significant than Din Djarin's.
I mean, you could make the argument she was the main character of season 3.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I enjoyed that. It didn't feel like a disservice to the character of Din Djarin. It felt like an appropriate pairing of two characters for where they were on their respective trajectories. And it was really enjoyable to see Bo-Katan at the beginning of this season just, desolate, hanging out by herself in a castle, which that never ends well, right? Don't do that. If you ever have that opportunity to just go live alone in a palace of some kind, pass on it, okay? Just a little pro tip from Peach. But then to see Din Djarin bring her out of that and give her additional purpose, it was great. It was delightful. It felt very both organic and just worth following the progression of her character, because she wasn't, here's what was wild, right? She wasn't even seeking any kind of a change, right? She's just hanging out in the palace going, well, this sucks. Guess that's it. And so for her to be drawn out of that place was that redemption arc. That was great. I didn't know we were going to get that. Didn't know I wanted it or was going to enjoy it that much, but it was outstanding.
I was going to say the same thing. It was very enjoyable to see her actually step into the leadership role that she was always supposed to have.
Yep.
So it'll be really cool. I hope in the next couple of seasons we really get to see Mandalore rise back up.
Right.
And yeah. So that'd be really cool.
Yeah. And I continue to just really delight in the Western vibes of the show. It's great. It's great. It's Star Wars blended with a Western, which is awesome. And the cameos that we got in this season. Okay, so obviously there's Jack Black. That's the big name.
First of all, I've said it before, maybe not in this podcast, but I will say it again.
I'd love to hear it.
You throw Jack Black in anything, I'm probably going to watch it.
Money.
You want to put Jack Black in Star Wars? Great. Did I think he was going to be this? No, I thought they'd make him like a fun alien. Right? Okay. Voicing a fun alien, right?
But I like that you got to see Jack.
Right.
He didn't get covered in the alien makeup. Dude, it was just Jack.
You want to make him Superman? All in. I'll give you all my money. Okay? Make him Superman.
Oh my goodness.
Make Danny DeVito Batman. I'm in. I'm 100% in. Okay? But honestly, he could pretty much play anything or be a part of a movie. Yeah. And I think he just adds to it because I think he just genuinely enjoys being in things.
Yeah, and he doesn't detract from it. I don't find it distracting.
No, in this he wasn't distracting at all.
No.
He was just this fun, former convict who's reformed. And he's royalty, and he's like, I can't handle these people myself, so I want you to do it.
It was genuinely perfect. Yeah. No, I really, really enjoyed it.
Lizzo, on the other hand, you could tell she doesn't act very much. It was okay, but she had very,
It was just, the word I'm going to use is boxy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it felt like a very, she gave me 70s, 80s movie queen vibes, where it was like, you must go to the castle and save the princess kind of vibes. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, are you reading this from the teleprompter?
Yes.
I'm Ron Burgundy. Like, put a little bit of yourself into it.
Mario, she's in another castle. Okay. All right. But also the Back to the Future guy.
Right, Christopher Lloyd.
That was awesome.
Doc freaking Brown.
And the fact that he was a crazy separatist.
Perfect.
Even more hilarious.
Perfect.
It's cool to see that part of the Star Wars timeline is still there.
Yep.
Like, we still saw the old battle droids. That's so much fun.
That was great.
Is it weird that there was a chase scene with one?
Of course.
Bit.
Sure.
But
you don't mind.
Those are my favorite droids. The ones that are hauling the boxes.
Right, the super battle droids. You bet.
Yeah. And then always those dorky ones are hilarious. But yeah, no, it was great to see like that. It's like honoring the prequels in a way. So I always enjoy that.
Agreed. No, it was a good nod. That's for sure. That episode was out of the entire season, like the most fluffy, right? Like, it took a long time to get from A to B, which is, hey, we're on the planet where all these other Mandalorians are. We took the whole episode to finally get there. But I didn't mind it. I really didn't. I enjoyed enough of the Jack Black cameo. I enjoyed enough of Christopher Lloyd being in it. The battle droid chase scene. It didn't progress the story forward very quickly, much at all. But compared to other shows, and I have a hard time explaining why, I think of like Loki, right? That show got off to such a banging start, and then there was that, I believe it was the third episode.
Lulled.
Yes, it was just such a scaling back of the tempo and the stakes that it was just harder to enjoy. And for some reason, this one I didn't mind.
See, this fluff I didn't really mind either, because at least it showed Din and Bo kind of like their relationship, like progress, trusting each other more as from, one warrior to another. But like, what I still can't wrap my head what I still
can't wrap your dome around.
Head around. Yes, there we go. Is like the weird, and this is where I zoned out a little bit. In The Mandalorian was the whole like subplot with the.
I was just gonna bring that up
with the doctor. And the one girl. And you knew she was gonna be a bitch. Okay, I'm just gonna say that right now. You kind of just.
She was bad news.
It was.
She was bad
eyeballs.
news.
But like. They don't really explain why, and I'm assuming it was because they didn't want him to say they didn't want his research to get into the hands of anyone else, so they fried his brain. Yeah. But and it kind of hinted at it when Moff Gideon had his clones. Right. But they don't really go in depth of why, though. You just have to it's context clues almost. Yep. A lot of indirect. You have to, as the audience member, you have to fill in the blanks a little bit. And that's a risky move when you're playing the long game, when you're drawing characters from season 1. And by the way, like early in season 1 into the middle of season 3, and there has been nothing. Well, I remember in between there, kind of. Yeah, I didn't remember her at all. I don't remember her at all. No, either. Didn't remember her at all, which I don't think was a mistake. I just think that was, again, it's difficult, and so I think it was built up as a pretty significant subplot, and I think the payoff was underwhelming, because if the whole point was to capture his research so that Moff Gideon could continue his cloning process, there wasn't much payoff there. Like, we never saw any of his clones take action, right? We saw them in their pods
their, what do you want to call them? Like their incubator pods where they're being grown. But good grief, Din Djarin like blows them up so quickly.
Thank God.
Oh yeah, we didn't need more of. I'm not advocating wanting to see more of Moff Gideon or more clones, but it was they spent so much time in that episode on that subplot, and the payoff was, and because you spend that much time, it feels like, okay, the payoff is, oh, that was it. I think that was the biggest miss of the show. At the same time, I don't mind the effort being made there because it was a well-developed subplot. The payoff just, I think, fell short.
Yeah, I did. I genuinely zoned out. I lost interest for that little 25. I was like, why is this a whole episode? This is not even like weaved in well. But
sure, it was a very abrupt turn.
And I will say this: if someone's cloning someone else in Star Wars, they're probably the bad guy. And by the way,
by default, usually not good.
First of all, they always go to cloning. It doesn't matter. They always go to clones. The clone troopers that eventually turned into stormtroopers.
Right.
And then, for some reason, the Chancellor decided to make 100 clones of himself.
Christmas.
And then we have Gideon making clones.
Right.
I'm tired of clones, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
that goes for everything.
We can move on from that. That's for sure. Here's what I didn't mind, though, about that subplot. The part that I probably enjoyed the most was it did explore the integration from, okay, post-imperial rule, establishing a new government, establishing a new structure. What do you do with the thousands, millions of individuals that were part of the imperial infrastructure? How do you, there's not enough prison planets, I would assume, in the galaxy for all of them. So how do you, as a allegedly good-hearted new government, integrate them back into society? So I liked that aspect of it, where it showed kind of the reprogramming almost. Like that was most compelling to me, where it's showing the Doctor trying to, try and come to terms with who he served as an Imperial scientist, who he's trying to serve now in the New Republic, and how he's just having such a hard time reconciling what feels like similarities to him between the two. And yet one of them he's being told was evil, right? So that was good, genuine like character exploration. Again, the ultimate payoff as it pertained to this show about the Mandalorian fell short, which was a bummer. But I did like that aspect of it. So that was neat. On the cameo front, okay, second to last episode. Did you ever watch the show Breaking Bad?
No, but I know a couple of the guys.
Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad, one of Jesse Pinkman's homeboys, was one of the Mandalorian survivors that had been living on Mandalore for a coon's age.
That's fun for you.
Really skinny white dude with the goatee.
Yeah, I know. I think I know what you're talking about. I wouldn't have picked that one up.
Oh, I picked it up and I was like, oh, Skinny Pete. It was great. It was great. And from Top Gun Maverick, Admiral freaking Warlock, he of just the golden voice. Like when he says...
Is that the captain?
Yes. Yeah, and when he says, to the forge, you're like, yep. No matter what, let's go to the forge.
That was the first thing I thought of. When I heard his voice, I'm like, I would follow that man into battle any day of the week.
Yeah. Oh, and in Top Gun Maverick, his voice every time is tremendous. It's awesome. Great. So yeah. I was just delighted by those small pulls that, again, weren't distracting. They were just another layer of delight. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, but those are the big ones. Obviously, Jack Black, Christopher Lloyd, Skinny Pete, Admiral Warlock. Did you notice any others? Any that stuck out to you?
No.
That was what I had, Riles. So, okay. Good thing on the cameo front. I want to get on a little bit of a pedestal here because my understanding is this season is having some rocks thrown at it, right? Rotten fruit. Okay. Pedestal time. I'm watching a baseball game before I come over here to pod.
Yep.
Okay. It's April. Baseball games in April, they don't matter, right? They do, but they don't. They have the least amount of inherent significance of just about any baseball games throughout the year. Playoffs are not on the line. Every team is hovering around 500 except for, 2 or 3 teams that completely suck and one team that's really amazing, right? So the Athletics are garbage, the Rays are incredible, and everybody else is bunched up together. So I'm watching a game between the Blue Jays and the Mariners. I like tracking the Mariners. This is being played in Toronto. All right. Again, can't emphasize this enough. This game just, there's no inherent significance here. All right. Well, there's a fan, a Toronto Blue Jays fan, sitting behind home plate, as many fans do. Okay. Riley, every time the Blue Jays pitcher threw a strike, this guy celebrated so genuinely and so hard. Like, strike 1, fist in the air. Yes, yes, clapping. Strike 2, 2 fists, gazing at the heavens like, this is awesome. Like, what's going to happen if you strike someone out? Like, is he going to go streaking? Like, he's so happy. But it was genuine, right? There wasn't anything goofy. It's the first inning, so I assume he's not 10 sheets to the wind. I think this is all just genuine enthusiasm. And at first I thought, dude, chill, all right? But then I pondered it a little bit more, and I thought, how great is that? That this guy is enjoying so much a strike being thrown, right? Like, the rest of us are here taking it for granted, like, yeah, this is just what a guy does, but he's celebrating. Like, I got really overly in depth with this thought. Okay, so I'm going to go too far down the rabbit hole. I'm going to pull back out, right? Yeah. But what if it's like this pitcher's, like, it's a friend of the pitcher, right? And he knows, man, I knew this pitcher when he was 5 years old. I've seen him grow up into this hulking, just monster of a dude. And here he is throwing 95-mile-an-hour sliders that have this huge break to the right. And it's just, wow, that's incredible to see that progression from boy to man. I mean, that was the level of enthusiasm with which he was celebrating a simple strike. To me, a simple strike. And I started thinking about The Mandalorian. And I thought, you know how 20 years ago, okay, 25 years ago, when I was growing up and I was just watching the original Star Wars movies for the first time, they'd obviously come out, they'd been out for a little while, but I was just watching them. That's all we had, guys. Once upon a time, you just had the original trilogy. And man, it was mind-blowing. It was great. The lightsabers, the Force, the good, the evil. It was tremendous. Okay, and if you would have told me then that, hey, someday there's going to be 6 more movies, TV shows on TV shows on TV shows, and someone had described this Mandalorian TV show, I mean, this is the stuff of genuine dreams once upon a time. And so what are people doing watching this and go, well, this sucks? I'm not saying you have to be over the moon about it, but I feel like there is a problem where we are so oversaturated with these entertainment choices that we're poo-pooing and not appreciating something that's genuinely good. Again, I'm not advocating saying it's the greatest thing you're ever going to see. No, but it's really good. It's really well made. It's crafted at a high level. It's a good story. Man, if you're bumming out on this, what's it going to take?
Well, I don't know if part of the problem was they thought that this was going to be very much like the first 2 seasons.
Sure.
And
I don't know.
The fact that they went kind of for this season pretty much with world building.
Yep.
Like, this is a very world building-esque focus. It shows that the Imperials are using pirates to kind of have these attacks on certain planets.
It's great.
And like they have their hands in everything a little bit, which that's what they do. Right? So I don't know if they just were like, oh, I want you to go back to trying to get Grogu to the Jedi. But like, I don't know.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, open your expectations up.
Right.
It doesn't have to line up with exactly what you think it should have been if it's good, if it's different than what you expected, but it's still genuinely well made and well crafted and objectively good. Like, do yourself a favor and enjoy it. Like, that is actually a choice. You can choose to enjoy something that's good, even if it's not, my personal preference would have been this. That's okay. Guess what? There's going to be more seasons of The Mandalorian, so there's a good chance that your preference gets fulfilled. But we have to know where we came from. This is mind-blowing that we're getting Star Wars TV shows, live action TV shows that are excellent.
Star Wars fans have kind of just always been assholes is the best way to describe it. They are very nitpicky.
Spoiled.
Very entitled.
Can't be pleased.
And it's just like, calm down a little bit.
Yep.
Because, first of all, to have Giancarlo Esposito as the main bad guy in 2 of the 3 Mandalorian seasons, are you serious?
Yep.
That is badass because he's great. And also the idea that he's been on Mandalore the whole time.
Terrific.
Farming, or I should say mining.
Yep.
Mining Beskar and building up these armies of Beskar armor, and he wants to create clones that also have the Force. Like, this dude's, like, smart.
Good bad guy. Really, really worthwhile foe.
We got stormtroopers that were worth a shit.
That's a good point.
And on top of that, do you remember the 3 Red Crimson Guard that were there?
Yes.
Remember when they got their asses handed to them against Kylo Ren and
Ray.
Daisy Ridley? Ray, that's it. Ray Palpatine.
Kylo and Daisy.
Right. They actually shined here a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like...
The action was so good. The action was so good.
And this has to be said, maybe one of the top 5 deaths all-time Star Wars.
Dude.
Paz Vizsla.
Dude.
Gunning 100 stormtroopers down, and it takes 3 of the Crimson Guard to finally take him out because he doesn't have a gun anymore.
It was awesome.
He took at least 3 guys down with his bare hands.
It was awesome.
Before we get back to that, also the way that Din Djarin broke that dude's neck,
dude,
with the dude on the knees, and just kind of popped him a little bit,
dude.
Badass.
It was incredible.
But yeah, Paz
incredible.
Vizsla is a legend. He is a legend, and I hope in the next couple of seasons that man gets a statue because he deserves it.
It was fantastic. And how about when Bo-Katan and the Armorer are flying around, and Bo-Katan is just going to town with the Darksaber, and the Armorer is just going like the mighty Thor? On all of it was freaking sweet.
I would love to see if there's a reason why she doesn't have a gun, but
you don't want her to ever pick up a gun. Ever.
But when she was taking out those pirates too? She just chucked it?
Yes.
And then used the taunt. Like, I'm like, what? How?
It's so, like, the highest respect. Like, you have this functional tool that crafts, high utility, best in the galaxy type armor. And oh, by the way, you wield it as a lethal weapon. Awesome.
Yeah.
The action is so good, Riley.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
So again, like, I'm serious. Like, if you're watching this, you're going, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you. Hard truth here. Do yourself a favor and figure it out.
Yeah. This is an Arby's commercial, dude. Where's the beef here? There isn't any. Get out of here. Where is it? Where's the beef?
You can't.
There's no beef.
No, you can't poo on this. This was great. This was, at bare minimum, really stinking good.
To me, if you didn't like this, we've had a couple conversations this week
that
kind of follow the longest lines. Mm-hmm. You have nothing better going on.
Yep.
You want to cause problems.
Yep.
That's how I view that. If you don't like this season, I can't figure it out.
I don't disagree. You couldn't, if you can't pull back and objectively realize what has happened in the last several years with The Mandalorian even existing as a TV show.
Right.
That's incredible. And it has crafted its own path. And because of what it has accomplished, which in and of itself has been worthwhile and tremendous as a self-contained story, the opportunities that is opened up for Star Wars, I think to really, we've talked about this countless times on this podcast, to thrive by leaning into the TV shows, getting away from feeling like, well, we got to put out a feature film. No. Do the TV shows. That is where I think Star Wars can continue to tell outstanding stories.
Look, I'll just say this and we can end on it here if you like.
Yep.
But I trust in Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni because these guys know what they're doing. I want Jon Favreau to honestly be in charge of Star Wars.
Why not?
I don't know why they haven't given him the reins. He should be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars, in my opinion.
Yep.
No offense to what's her name?
No. Kathleen Kennedy has had her opportunity and hasn't done well with it. So it's John and Dave's show. They're the guys. Totally agree.
Cool.
Good stuff. Yep. Well, we loved Mandalorian Season 3. Go check it out. And frankly, this makes me want to rewatch Seasons 1 and 2. And there's more Star Wars greatness coming. So
I'm so thankful for the way they do the recaps because I wish more shows did the way...
Helpful.
Right, because they also not only... And I'm not talking about just recaps from the episode before, but they also recap very nicely like, okay, here are the little bits and pieces you need to remember from season 1, season 2.
Yeah.
That's so helpful for me because
set some really good context.
Right.
Yeah. No question.